Hey friends, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about 15 books that have recently-ish, in the last month or two, have gone on my radar. And what I mean by that is that they have been added to my TBR. So this is kind of like a mix of an anticipated reads video, because some have come out just recently or yet to come out, slash an inspiration from Amanda from the Curly Readers, her videos when she used to make My Growing TBR, which is like books that I've just heard about in the last month or two for various reasons and from various sources, and they've piqued my interest and now have been added to my list of books to read. Basically 15 books that sound interesting to me. Without further ado, let's get into it. The first one is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. This book just came out on May 3rd, so it is a new release, and I saw Megan from Megan's Book Club on Instagram that she rated it 5 stars, particularly the audiobook experience. When someone like really praises an audiobook, I'm like all about it. And I think this one is just like general contemporary fiction, maybe a little bit more literary than I would usually pick up. But basically the story is about a woman who works at an aquarium, and she's dealing with grief and loss from, I believe, her son or husband drowned, and she befriends an octopus at the aquarium. It sounds kind of like, okay, but I had such an incredible experience watching The Octopus Teacher, which is a documentary on Netflix where a guy goes diving every single day and basically has a relationship and connects with this octopus. And I just feel like this will be a heartfelt story. I don't know, I'm hearing good things and it sounds interesting. Completely on the other side of things, I recently read Cultish. I loved it, and it got me so intrigued to learn more about Scientology because it's wild that I really want to pick up Going Clear, Scientology, Hollywood, and the Prison of Belief by Lawrence Wright. I want to take like a deeper dive into learning about Scientology and how messed up it is and all the wild stuff that's in that cult, and I hope to get to this nonfiction sooner rather than later. Another nonfiction that I guess is technically an anticipated release because it's going to come out on November 1st in 2022, so quite a ways away, and that is Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, a memoir by Matthew Perry. I am a huge Friends fan, love the show, love Chandler Bing. I love a good memoir, so I am stoked to read his story. And he's also shared before in like random celebrity interviews that he's struggled with drug abuse and all kinds of stuff, so I'm just very curious about his life. Another memoir that has caught my eye because all D books mentioned it, and that is The Honey Bus, a memoir of loss, courage, and a girl saved by bees. Now, I bet you can guess why this one piqued my interest. Because it's about bees, but also it's a memoir, so totally intrigued to read it, probably for another installment of a bee-themed video because I have so many to read at this point. I have quite a few nonfiction about bees to read, but this one just sounds interesting. I don't really need to know any details except that it's a memoir about a girl and about bees. This next one is also about bees, and that is Gray Bees by Andrei Kurkov. This one, obviously, for the title and cover, I was like, oh, bees, that's all I need to know. But then diving into it, this is actually set in Ukraine. It is a contemporary fiction, and it is about the war. Not necessarily the war that's happening right now, but a fictional war that would have happened. This book was published in 2020 without realizing events that would unfold 2 years later, but it's a story about a beekeeper and him just wanting to raise bees and live a simple life, but he's living in a war-torn country and having to deal with conflict about Russia and Ukraine relations. It just seems super relevant to what is going on right now. It is also a translated book, which I would love to read more of. Basically everything about this book is right up my alley and just is calling my name. The next one is also Soviet related, and that is The Tsar of Love and Techno, Stories by Anthony Mara. This one obviously caught my eye because of the word Tsar, and I feel like I immediately knew that that meant something to do with Russia. I then went down a rabbit hole and saw that Olive from A Book Olive rated it 5 stars and raved about it in a booktube video like years ago. And without knowing too many details, I know that it is set in Russia. It's a collection of short, slightly interwoven stories, maybe multi-generational, maybe jumps around, which short stories I need to dabble in more of to really make up my opinion about how I feel in general. I'm leaning more on the stance that I don't love them, but I'm willing to give more of a try before I judge them too harshly. But this book sounds interesting to me because, I mean, not only was it raved about, but also I've had some fantastic reads about people describing a Soviet experience. This is not nonfiction. This is a historical fiction take on that, but still intrigued by it. The next one I actually have here with me, and that is The Orchard by Christina Gorcheva Newberry. This one I saw because I was perusing Powell's on Indie Bookstore Day. I didn't actually buy any books that day. I did buy 2 mugs that have bees on them. of course, at Powell's. But I did see this one. I just walked around, picked books off the shelves that just looked pretty or looked interesting, and read the back and saw this one, and I was like, what's that about? Open the flap and realized that it is books set in Russia, and I was like, what are the chances? But it is about a group of friends that come of age in the USSR, what life means there, what friendship means then, what immigrating to the US looks like, and how relationships are held throughout time within that whole experience. So I feel like it's a lot more like introspective, which again maybe isn't usually my cup of tea, but I'm willing to give it a go. And I saw that this book was available on the new shelf at my library like the day after I went to Powell's, so I was like, I'll check it out. Am I gonna read it within the next month? I don't know. The next one is a graphic novel, and that is We Survived the Holocaust, the Bluma and Felix Goldberg story by Frank Baker and Tim Ogline. And this is also an anticipated release because it comes out on September 1st. It caught my eye obviously because it is a Holocaust story, but also because it's a graphic novel. I was just perusing like Amazon book lists and this one was on there. This next one I think I also saw from the Curly Reader, and that is Looking for Me by Betsy Rosenthal. And of course this piqued my interest because of the cover and the Matryoshka dolls, but the story is about 12 siblings that come of age during Depression era Baltimore and what that experience is like, and I think this is a novel in free verse. Another middle grade that I think I will read in October is October by Katya Balin. I've seen a few people sing its praises, but I think the cover is beautiful, and it's about a young girl living in the woods with her dad, so I'm sure it has some beautiful nature writing and adventure and being wild outside. I don't know, it just sounds sweet and kind of whimsical. This next one I definitely feel like I need some feedback on, so please let me know if you've read it and your thoughts in general, and that is The Clan of the Cave Bear. This one I think I heard about and then saw it at my library for 50 cents, and I was like, I should just buy it. I actually bought the first 3 books because they were all the same set, and I was like, might as well just get all 3 of them. But this one I'm intrigued by because it's a historical fiction, and I think at this point could be considered a modern classic because it was published in 1980. And I think it's like a cult classic, by that meaning some people like love it or hated it, and the people that love it love it. I'm just very curious about it. It is historical fiction, but it's set during the dawn of time, like prehistoric, like cavemen times, and I think it's a little bit fantastical as well. It is a 6-book series, so a bit of a commitment if you jump into it. I've never read anything that's like prehistoric. Like the things that come to mind is literally like Ice Age and Brother Bear and the dinosaur from Pixar. I'm thinking about those things. I've literally not read anything else or watched anything else that's like evokes that vibe. So please let me know what you've heard or what your thoughts are if you've read it. The next one I have is The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. I honestly have fallen in love with classics recently, especially after reading a Jane Austen, and I'm just like in the mood and it just feels right, and I feel like I'm gonna like it. And I think this is about a group of women, like friends, who buy a fancy villa in Italy and like hang out there. I feel like it's gonna be like calming and peaceful and beautiful, and maybe like the perfect book to read on vacation. Another British lit book that has popped onto my radar is The Light Years by Elizabeth Jane Howard. I first saw Melissa from Libraries and Labradors sing its praises, and she like bought a beautiful collection of all the books in the series. I think it's also like a 5 or 6 book series, and it is promised to evoke the Downton Abbey vibes. So that is why my interest is piqued. I feel like I'm in the middle of too many series right now to like start a brand new one, but you know, it just sounds good, so it's on my TBR. We'll see when I get to it. Next one is titled Orphans of the Storm by Celia Imrie. I saw this one just at my library, putting books away. It is a book that is set on the Titanic, which I have not read any historical fiction about the Titanic. I think there's 2 perspectives, 2 different women from 2 different parts of life that somehow get their way onto the Titanic, and obviously we all know how that ends. So I'm not sure what this is going to bring or what new things I can take away from that story, but I've yet to read a historical fiction about the Titanic, so I'd love to give it a try, and I think the cover is great. And then finally, to round it all out, another historical fiction that solely caught my eye because of the gorgeous cover is Featherweight by Mick Kitson. This book is set during the Industrial Revolution, and it is about a young girl that is part of the Romani tribe, so I think like the gypsies, and she gets sold as a servant to someone, and then he trains her. He's a boxer, and then he trains this young girl to be a boxer. I think I could be getting that wrong, but I think it has like that found family dynamic potentially about like an older man maybe hiring a girl, trying to save a girl, but then she ends up being like his daughter. It's unique, you know, it's at least a completely different story than anything I've read before, so we'll see how it goes. So that's it. Those are the 15 books that have caught my eye recently and I'm thinking about reading in the near future, whatever that means, you know, right? 1 to 5 years, question mark. But as always, please let me know if you've read any of them, what your thoughts are, if you've heard of any of them. Any comments down below are always appreciated. And thank you so much for watching and spending some time with me today. And I'll see you guys in another video soon. Bye!